Okay, Huge Movie Fanatic Nate stopping on by yet again to do another review of a kind of a, I guess this movie, is this a horror movie? Does it have a horror? It doesn't say. It's probably, I would imagine this movie would be located in the horror film section. This is a movie that you really don't hear much, or at least I don't hear much about at all, and having rewatched it just today, I kind of understand why. I don't believe this has gotten any other kind of release. After its initial release, which is this release right here. I'm coming at you to review Junior from 1984/5, A Cut Above. I don't know if I could agree with that. First you saw the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, then you met Freddy in Nightmare on Elm Street. Now meet Junior, A Cut Above. This is the original Prism VHS from, it says, 1986. And you know what when you were standing in video stores and you hated what I hated? When I picked up a box and I turned over the box to look at pictures on the back, only to see nothing in a picture of what's on the front of the box. But this is the original, what's that say? The most deranged lunatic ever to stalk the screen. It's just a bunch of bullshit. But this is the original Prism VHS tape, and I think this was actually in a clamshell because it looks like I did some restoration work. They didn't cut any of the box away, obviously, but this was probably in a clamshell because I taped, the box up and made it back into a box. So I actually just rewatched this movie just now, today. First time I've probably seen it since the 90s, I think, and I can see why. This tape, I was just going through stuff or whatever, and I came across, and I'm like, oh wow, Junior, that'd be kind of a cool one to revisit and review. And then I did it, and it wasn't so cool to revisit, actually. Basically, this movie, just did some research just today before the review, and the really crappy, the title, Junior, comes out on this movie was obviously shot on film, but the title comes out on the screen in video kind of public access kind of fashion, and I'm like, when that happens, I'm like, you know what? And in particular, because this movie, Junior, is kind of not a very center point about this movie, so I'm just watching this movie and I'm going like, you know what, this was probably not even called Junior. And then I did some research and it turns out that it was indeed also known as Hot Water or Operation Hot Water. This movie basically just follows a premise with these two extremely more or less attractive women who basically getting out of, I don't know if this is just female prison or girl prison or whatever. These are formerly two prostitutes who obviously probably got caught prostituting or whatever, or I think I can't remember, did they steal their pimp's cocaine? Anyway, the beginning of this movie finds these two, relatively attractive women getting out of prison, and so they get out of prison, it's like, yay, that's kind of the opening credit scene of them getting out of prison or walking out, and then it's just like, they're free, yay, they kind of go back out into the world in their prostitute clothes, and this, immediately have a run-in with their pimp, and who they, kind of pulls up in the Cadillac convertible. I don't think it's a Cadillac, it's some kind of Cadillac-ish kind of big boat of a car convertible, and the two girls end up, he kind of accosts them, and they end up, beating him up and kind of taking his car, and which has a shotgun in it, and I think close to, which is so funny because you can't do anything with this fucking money now, close to $1,700 in cash. So they take it upon themselves to go and I guess either buy or lease this kind of rundown property. Now this looks like, and it kind of plays like it was like a film, like a movie shot in the south of the North America, like southern North America, but having looked at the credits, it looks like it was actually filmed in Canada, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. Or I mean, Canadian kind of locations are all over the end credits, so I'm assuming it was filmed in Canada, but I think it's supposed to be like southern half of North America. But this whole movie revolves around just kind of this property, which obviously the filmmakers probably had, well, obviously they had access to this kind of dilapidated, it was like this, I think it looks like a lake, but I think they called this big body of water in the movie a river, and it's this big kind of property. I don't know if it's a house slash former business or something, where it kind of like a really cool kind of a riverside property. This whole movie revolves, basically takes place at this one location. Obviously the filmmakers had, maybe someone who was making the movie owned it or whatever, but obviously they were able to use this location, this very rundown location, which is probably going to be, probably bulldozed or whatever. A lot of times this happens in movies, like in the original Night of the Living Dead and stuff, where they get wind, a production company will get wind of some kind of old property that's going to be, destroyed or whatever, and they're going to go, so they can go in there and basically just shoot a movie in there and they kind of destroy it in the process or whatever, which is what happens in this movie. So basically these two women take this whole whopping nearly $1,700 and buy or lease this kind of, buy or rent this property, and they kind of have this hinkering, they're gonna like open, clean this place up and open a restaurant or some shit. Anyway, then you got this, they meet up with this guy, this sheriff, who's kind of a shady looking feller, and he's not too keen on having these whores come into town or whatever, and this whole movie is just him popping up every now and then and harassing him, just like making sure everything's okay. He's got this big flashlight, and then he'll just leave, and it'll kind of leave all the characters on edge. And then the reason why I thought this movie probably wasn't originally called Junior is because you got this stupid character, just kind of this, whatever, early mid-20s, just hillbilly hick son of a bitch with, most of the time he ends up being like with pants and no shirt, and he's got suspenders on, running around, just causing havoc and stuff. So here these two whores, former whores, are trying to make a new life for themselves with this nearly $1,700. And by, you're trying to refurbish this, kind of really cool riverside water location, which is really cool. And it's a movie that I guess I can't say I tend to revisit during the summer because I probably haven't seen it since the 90s. So I don't revisit it very often, maybe every 15 years or so. But it's, if there's a decade where I ever do pull it out, I do kind of generally want to do it more towards around the summer months, because I'm an anal bastard and I generally like to watch things during the same kind of season that take place in the movie or whatever. So, I mean, I had much fonder memories of this movie than it actually was. Basically, it's just, I'm not going to complain about this. Obviously, these two attractive women. I will add for the record that obviously they're both hot, but the brunette in this movie is just like, holy mother. And obviously it's a movie of these two main characters, these two hot women, and they just wear these short shorts and just, it's a movie to just ogle these women at the end of the day, which is cool. I'm fine with, whatever. Definitely always pretty much something to look at. Obviously, you get some kind of more risque sunbathing shots, and there's this one scene where this woman, the brunette one, or the more top-heavy character, is being accosted by a bunch of these redneck kind of hick boaters and stuff, so she takes off her bikini top to stuff it in a little bottle of alcohol and make a Molotov cocktail kind of on the spot, and then she threatens to, like, I got one more in my bikini bottom, you want more? She threatens to take off her bikini bottom and stuff it into another thing. I guess she's boats with just bottles and bottles of liquor, but this woman, this brunette in this movie, is just like, holy Toledo, what a bod on her. So that's what this movie basically is, all 80 minutes of it. Just these two hot women basically scantily clad, just whatever, and then this other kind of hot young girl kind of falls upon them, who has been chased by Junior. Junior in this movie is just this doofus who just like comes around and just bugs these women, and he's got this mom who is clearly played by some, this mom who is like kind of, I don't know why she looks like grandma, like, this mid-20 somethings guy is going to have a grandma mom, but this mom is clearly played by a guy, which is probably because I don't know why. Then I was just watching the movie thinking, why is mom played by a guy? And then I'm like, well, at the end there's a scene where mom is there's a scene where mom is kind of involved in a confrontation at the end, and I'm like, well, obviously so this character does a little more kind of, I don't know, physical stuff than they'd want an old woman. But again, why is his mom so old, like, Norman Bates' mom in the rocking chair, but whatever. So it's just 80 minutes of basically looking at these scantily clad women just kind of get friendly with a couple of guys, this carpenter guy and this other guy who lives on a houseboat with his most favorite people in the world, which are just plants, which is fine. I'm not making fun of it. I would probably agree with the character, as a matter of fact, that plants and other things, maybe like animals and stuff, are definitely, better company than most people. So I'm not making fun of the guy. It just kind of sounds funny when you say it out loud, like a guy who lives in a houseboat with plants. So they'll, there's obviously these two women meet these two guys and have some, sexual encounters, softcore sexual encounters with them, and it's just basically what the impression I get from this movie is, like I say, someone involved with the production had access to this location, and they also had access to film stock and a Steadicam and a couple or three relatively attractive women and some boats and stuff, so they made a movie. The whole movie, from what I can tell, looks like it's completely dubbed, like all the dialogue and sound effects. Like, I don't think there's one single bit of production audio that comes through the finished product, and it always makes you wonder why that happens, but in any case, for whatever reason, that's the case in this particular instance. So what ends up happening, I might as well just spoil it because you don't give a shit. Obviously Junior is portrayed to be the kind of antagonist in this movie. Well, it turns out that this hick sheriff guy is actually the one who's kind of, I guess, hires Junior to harass people, and in this case these two women trying to make a go of it in this dilapidated house/business location. So the cop hired Junior to kind of drive these girls out of there, which kind of makes more sense. Like, why would Junior just keep coming back and just harassing them? It makes kind of no sense. So it makes more sense when that particular fact comes into play, and then towards the end of the movie the two girls string Junior up and catch him in a big net, and we find out the reveal of the cop being the main bad guy of this movie, and then Mom, who's always watching the hijinks from across the river with binoculars, actually sees her boy, which looks like more like her, by the age of what this woman's supposed to be. Well, this woman is played by a man, but judging on the age that they're making this man up to be his woman is more like grandma. But at the end of the movie, she saves the day, and I think, saves some of the day, and shoots this conniving sheriff, and kills him only to light the place on fire with his cigar. And basically Junior comes smashing out of the building carrying what's obviously just a mannequin, which is supposed to be her, in his arms, and jumps into the water. And it's just, so basically, Junior's kind of, even though he's shown to be the bad guy in this movie, is just kind of a pawn in this hick sheriff's evil plan to chase these former whores away. So that's my review of Junior. I'm gonna say oh my gosh, this is probably a high rating for this movie. 1.5 stars out of 4 stars. Obviously 1 star of that is just for the the eye candy of just these two, well, I guess there's 3 attractive women, but the third girl that they come across is just not really, you don't really see much, and she's just kind of moping around sulking because either she's has post-traumatic stress, or her dog just died, so she spends most of the time, which isn't a whole lot of her appearance in the movie, just moping around or whatever. So obviously the two leads are the main hot women to enjoy in this movie. But I actually just did look, as of today, it is on YouTube in its entirety. I haven't watched the whole thing. I just started there, at the beginning, and so I can't comment if the nudity. If you're lucky, you can go watch this movie. Just type Junior 1985, I think, and the whole movie, like I say, is on YouTube. I don't know if the nudity is intact, but feel free to run on over there before it's deleted and check this movie out right now here on YouTube. Junior, a cut above, I would say a cut, way, way, way below. So thank you very much for watching my review, and as always, we'll catch you next time.